City Council meeting for the City of Highland Park, August 26, 2024. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Brockman. Present. Councilmember Ross. Present. Councilmember Tapia. Councilmember Littleworth. Here. Councilmember Stone. Here. Councilmember Bloomberg. Mayor Rotary.
Here, we have a quorum. Everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the closed session of the regular City Council meeting held July 29th, 2024, and approval of the minutes of the regular City Council meeting held on July 29th, 2024?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank
I'll
you.
be voting present on the minutes.
Great, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the warrant list?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any comments or questions on the warrant list? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the vote?
Councilmember Brockman.
Aye.
Councilmember Ross. Councilmember Littleworth.
Aye.
Councilmember Stone.
Aye.
Councilmember Bloomberg.
Aye.
Mayor Rotary.
Aye, 6 ayes, no nays. The warrant list is approved. We'll now move, excuse me, to the report of the mayor. The suffering of more than 100 hostages who are still held against their will in Gaza continues to weigh heavily on our hearts. We continue to call for their safe return and keep their loved ones in our hearts, especially those who are here in Highland Park. Continuing on, I have 2 appointments this evening. First, Councilmember Yumi Ross is appointed as liaison to the Community Partners for Affordable Housing, and Elliot Rawson appointed to Vice Chair of the Transportation Advisory Group. I'm seeking concurrence from the City Council. Do I have your agreement? Yes? Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Ross. Thank you, Elliot. We appreciate your volunteerism. I have no proclamations, and we have no other business. Is there any business from the council? Anybody wants to share? No? Okay. I'd now like to invite City Manager Newkirk to provide the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. We just have a couple of items. Amanda, can you go to the next? So first, construction update. We have a wealth of information on the city's website as it pertains to construction taking place throughout the community. Just want to provide a couple of highlights. We will be starting parking lots within the community. The Ori North and City Hall parking lots are going to be closed for that time period that's listed on the slide. We are providing notification to area businesses and of course our City Hall employees and guests as part of that project. And then the community house, a portion of that parking lot has already been resurfaced, but there will be 8 spaces that will be impacted as part of that resurfacing scheduled at the end of next month. The downtown resurfacing project is progressing very well. We have the striping complete. We're continuing work on the crosswalks, and there's a photo there if you can picture one of the crosswalks. They look absolutely beautiful. We have certain locations in the downtown district that have yet to be completed because we're working with outside agencies. So for example, under the railroad tracks along Laurel, as well as some other locations that are still planned to be undertaken. And then we're going to be resurfacing Park Avenue from St. John's to Linden. So we are doing that project as a city, but coordinating at the back end of the project due to the multifamily housing development that is underway. And then traffic signal improvements, as noted by Director Bannon at the committee of the whole meeting. There's been a long lead time for traffic signals, so that work is planned to be done yet this year. So we're still waiting on the equipment. And then just a couple of updates on 2nd Street. Again, more detailed information is available on the city's website, and we're providing regular email updates to interested property owners and businesses through the business news as well as the city's e-news. But all sewer infrastructure has been completed, the underlayment, they're working on curbs, gutters, and the tree grate frames. We are continuing work on the brick pavers throughout this corridor. They're pouring the foundation for the new light poles and the bollards that are going to follow as part of the next phase. And then the installation of the electrical conduit is currently underway on the west side of the street. And then you can see there the work that is remaining to be done in the next month as well. We're planning to open up the street as fast as possible. The repaving is going to be the last segment as part of that corridor. And again, we're going to continue to work very closely with all the businesses along 2nd Street. We are promoting to the public, please continue to support Second Street businesses as well as all the businesses within the downtown district during this construction period, which we understand is challenging for all of them. And then just a couple of other updates. Wanted to give an update on the Place of Remembrance. So we have a working group that has been working on the plan for a more permanent Place of Remembrance. The temporary location, which is in the Rose Garden adjacent to City Hall, is going to remain in place until that permanent location has been established. One of our very first meetings, we established the objectives for this initiative, and so they are outlined there by those 3 bullet points. And then on the next slide, one of the very first meetings we had based on feedback from the council as well as from victims in the community, we wanted to really identify and reinforce what are the community values that we have. And so at the start of every meeting, we identify our values and objectives. We have all agendas and minutes posted at that link that you can see right there on the city's website. Our next meeting is tomorrow evening, and so we have shared that meeting date, time, and location with our victim list. So those are individuals that are the next of kin, present and injured, and then present and not injured. And then we also are sharing generally with the community and an invitation to attend those meetings as well. If individuals have questions at any time, we have a dedicated email address that has been set up as part of this remembrance process, and so that's listed there on the screen. And then just quickly in terms of next steps, so we have conducted a significant amount of research thus far of other communities, sadly, that have gone before us and gone through this process. So we've learned significantly from them, as well as we continue to get guidance from the Department of Justice, Office of Victims of Crime. And so based on that feedback, we did identify as a group, and based on public feedback, a number of different location options for the Place of Remembrance. We identified what are advantages to all those locations, as well as considerations that we should be mindful of. Minutes from those meetings were shared with the City Council, and again, available on our website. We issued a request for proposal to hire a public engagement firm to help us with the next process, which is going to be the significant public engagement as we evaluate location options for the Place of Remembrance. One component of that public engagement is to do a community-wide survey, which will be done in English and Spanish. We're going to have options to meet in person as well as virtually. We did talk at our last meeting about fundraising, and the working group indicated a strong interest not to have levels of fundraising, but really just to recognize anyone at any amount that they want to contribute to this initiative. And so we are going to affirm the working group's recommendation in that regard, and then formally bring back that information at a committee of the whole meeting for council concurrence. And then again, our next meeting is tomorrow. So if individuals have any questions, they're welcome to contact us and certainly attend or look at our website for further information. And then just briefly, we have 14 items on the omnibus agenda for your consideration. Just want to give highlights to a couple of them. So number 2 pertains to an intergovernmental agreement between the city, library, and park district. We've been working for some time on this agreement. The library has already approved it, and the park district is scheduled to approve it at their next meeting as well. This initiative was brought forward as part of the library expansion plans, but I just want to stress that even without that expansion, this is good policy, and it's recommended that it be approved. It cleans up basically property ownership as it pertains to the west parcel of the library, the east parcel that the city owns, the lawn adjacent to City Hall, north of City Hall, that's currently owned by the Park District, that the city would own as part of this agreement, as well as the Rose Garden. And so that continues the city's operation and maintenance of that property as well. So that's recommended to be approved. And for individuals interested in the library expansion project, they are going to be proceeding through the city's formal planning process. The library has a wealth of information on their website, as well as a project email list where people can be kept apprised of that initiative. Number 3 pertains to an amendment to the license agreement and grant of easement and right-of-way pertaining to 3 properties on First Street. This is a follow-up to the last committee of the whole meeting. We heard from Mr. Claremont's attorney today that the 1989 agreement was between the city and NBD Trust, which has been succeeded by JP Morgan. So they are recommending that the new agreement be between the city and Claremont Family Associates LP, an Illinois limited partnership. So we are recommending that item number 3 be approved as amended, and also that it be subject to final approval by Corporation Council. And then number 4 pertains to the Food and Beverage Establishment Interior Improvement and Expansion Grant Program. This was discussed at the March 11th Committee of the Whole meeting. We also brought forward the policy feedback and direction from the City Council to our Business and Economic Development Advisory Group. And this is one of several initiatives that the city has to support our existing businesses as well as serve as business attraction purposes. I do understand that there's an interest in pulling this agenda item, but it is recommended for approval. And then number 5 is amending the city's ethics regulations. I was advised that this item is requested to be pulled as well, but very briefly, based on council feedback, we have drafted regulations in concert with Corporation Council that establishes the official position of the ethics advisor as a Corporation Council, and the creation of an official position of ethics enforcement officer. So this was discussed at 2 Committee of the Whole meetings and is recommended to be approved. And then number 8 is a change order with Leopardi Construction related to the Senior Center project. I understand this one is requested to be pulled as well. I can provide further information at that time, but there's a detailed staff report in the packet that itemizes the recommendation as part of that initiative. So that concludes our report. Happy to answer any questions.
Great. Any questions? No? Okay. City Manager, would you please introduce the next item on our agenda, business from the public?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Business from the public is an opportunity for members of the public to address the City Council on a topic that is within the council's purview and jurisdiction, but is not listed in another location on the agenda. If you would like to speak about a matter that is listed on the agenda, we ask that you wait until that agenda item is called, and we will give you an opportunity to speak then. If your matter is on the omnibus or consent agenda, please let us know if you'd like us to remove that matter from the consolidated list so that you can speak about it. Please be aware that business from the public is not intended to be a forum for open dialogue or engagement with members of the City Council. Rather, it is intended as an opportunity to make comments to the City Council. Please do not expect a response from anyone tonight. If appropriate, questions may be directed to me as the City Manager or other city staff, and all comments should be directed to the Mayor and City Council. All speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. We request that speakers refrain from throwing objects or using noisemakers, and that the public not applaud or make other comments after any speaker. We ask that everyone be respectful, civil, and non-repetitive.
Thank you. I'm Carl Lamprecht. I live around here in Highland Park. The gas tax was doubled a couple of years ago, and now it's going up little by little every year. It's not great for businesses on the line between Wisconsin. It's so much cheaper to buy fuel there, even if the fuel is on the higher side for Wisconsin. It's still about 50 cents more per gallon. I think this is terrible. We have another situation in our state. We're subsidizing electric cars to the tune of $7,500. This should not be. China is receiving a subsidy of over $100 million to build a battery factory in the state of Illinois. They're doing the same thing in Michigan. This should not be. We shouldn't subsidize China. We've already given them over $100 million without even groundbreaking. This is from several years ago. I think it's time now that we recognize who China is and who we are as American citizens. And it's time that we start moving in a correct fashion. Solar panels from China are exempt from duty, according to President Biden. I don't know why we have exempt from duty. I'm sure if we sell solar panels to China, they'll have a heavy duty on ours. I remember meeting with some Chinese people at a program in San Francisco,
They bought their cell phone in the United States because it was cheaper than in China, even though it was produced in China. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that wish to be heard?
Hi, I'm Susie Well, Highland Park resident. So as you can see from my new t-shirt, Karma is my new boyfriend. He is super hardworking, and his #1 job is to correct injustices. He's been working his tail off in our fair town, and I'm here with a progress report. I was one of over 60 circulators of this petition that gained over 2,500 signatures. I'm so proud to be a part of this uber successful grassroots effort. I can't wait for November to see this referendum on the ballot, and I'll read it. Should the city of Highland Park amend its laws to allow liquor license holders to serve as elected city officials? So for sure, all 2,500 that signed will, of course, vote yes. And with a PR campaign that I hope to be a part of, there will be more. You know, I expect that the results of this will be even more evident than a stack of emails with a lone dissenter marked with sticky parchment. I think you'll really hear this one. I don't think you'll be able to ignore the wishes of the Highland Park voters much past November 5th. Luckily, Karma, AKA my new boyfriend, will afford you a final opportunity to correct a grave injustice, an injustice to a hardworking business owner, his family, his city council colleagues, the Highland Park voters, and the rest of our community at large. My boyfriend and I will be back to see you. We can't wait on November 12th. And we just know that you will do the right thing. Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else wishing to be heard from the public?
Levi Kane. Oh, Levi, why dost thou care so ardently? Highland Park shall endure. Indeed, Highland Park shall ever stand resilient. But I beseech thee, why not reach for greatness? Why not ascend to the zenith of magnificence? Why settle for mediocrity's pale shadow? Why endure a council of mere rigorous adjudicators? See, what we crave upon this council are not idle do-nothing such as yourselves, but souls imbued with the spirit of enterprise. Those whose very essence is infused with the fervor of innovation and the zeal of industrial ambition. We yearn for minds that are fertile with dreams as vast as the heavens, hearts that beat with the courage to venture into the unknown, hands that craft visions into tangible marvels. We seek not mere placeholders, but luminaries, whose mere presence radiates the brilliance of boundless potential, whose every action is a symphony of entrepreneurial prowess. Not souls like you, whose spirits are barren of vision, whose hearts are devoid of daring, whose hands are idle and ineffectual. We seek not your kind, whose mere presence is but a shadow cast upon progress, a pall upon the bright flame of ambition. For too long have you besmirched this town with your bureaucratic drivel. Enough with the stifling laws. We have chains enough. If you wish to craft policy, let it be one that bestows upon us the wings to soar, not shackles that bind. At a mere glance, half the city appears forsaken. Properties standing vacant like specters. People make jest of landlords gaining tax relief, and mayhap they do, as is their due. Yet would it not be far more prosperous to see these spaces brimming with life and commerce? Indeed it would. But dealing with you is a torment most dire, a grievous ordeal fraught with frustration and woe. For this I fault not the landlords, but you, whose obstinate ways and relentless bureaucracy turn opportunity into despair. Do the noble citizens of Highland Park yearn for the relief of diminished levies upon their humble abodes? Here lies a radical notion. Incentivize these daring entrepreneurs to plant their seeds in Highland Park's fertile soil. 'Tis no secret that with more enterprises blooming, generating tax revenue, there would be no need to exact it from us plebeians. But low seizing is your modus operandi, so why should we expect aught else? Oh, And these incentives need not be of the fiscal kind either. Simply render the path to business here enticingly seamless. Seize thy bullying of the industrious and desist in the frivolous lawsuits that tarnish our commercial landscape. Why there is so much red tape, none can fathom. But then again, why you partake in most of your fooleries, we comprehend not either. Good day.
Any other members of the public wishing to be heard?
Good evening. My name is Larry Hillman. 68 years in Highland Park, 41 years as a property owner, soon to end. Been here for a long, long time, seen a lot of progress in Highland Park, seen a lot of devastation recently in Highland Park. I know I'm playing beat the clock with Nancy here, so I'm not going to go through all my stuff here. But once we were an outstanding, nationally known central business district. I remember going to the ICSC meetings in Las Vegas and coming home with stacks of business cards of people looking to open businesses in Highland Park. Now, we can't find anybody to come to Highland Park that's much good. I'm trying to re-rent my spaces on Central Avenue for $15 a square foot. That's less than a third of what rent we charged 15 years ago. And we still can't find any takers. So I think we've seen a tremendous exodus of restaurants and businesses and things like that. And the question becomes why that is happening. I know you like to blame it on COVID, the lake's proximity, Trump, Amazon, Reagan, Biden, whomever. But it seems like all the other communities on the North Shore have not experienced that problem. In fact, we've gone from the best community in terms of the business district in probably Illinois to absolutely the worst. Highwood is more prosperous than Highland Park now, and that's embarrassing. Now, I used to put up with all this stuff, and until recently, I was willing to do some more. And I'm watching the clock because I know you are, Nancy. You've tore up Central Highland Park in the middle of the business season. I personally lost about $1 million in retail sales because of that. And from the city, I get sorry, not sorry. And I know that people on 2nd Street are suffering worse than I am, but I'm sure you're telling the same thing, with the only exception is that you put a sign on the front of the street that says, open for business. I don't really think that's acceptable. I think also that Highland Park needs to learn a couple things. Like I said, I'm leaving. This is my last appearance before you in the city council as a property owner of downtown Highland Park. And I don't know what's going to happen with the stores and the businesses, but that's your problem, not mine. But you take us for fools. And the reason I'm here particularly is because you have an incentive program where you have offered my #1 competitor $1.5 million subsidy. My #1 competitor, you have offered $1.5 million subsidy. And people that I respected and called a friend for 30 years, like Tony, didn't have the balls to give me a call and let me know that was coming. Well, I invested my money in my business, and I guess that's it.
Did you want to clarify any of the misinformation that was shared, or is it?
I can follow up with Mr.
Okay.
Hillman, yes.
Okay, I mean, I think it's important to note that we're at 92% occupancy with new restaurants coming in, and having looked at our sales tax revenue, there are some misstatements made, but I understand his frustration, and
Yes.
we are working to make that one of our priorities, economic development. So, any other members of the members of the public wishing to be heard tonight?
Nancy Webster, archivist. Can you all hear me? It seems that the library expansion is moving fast at lightning speed. And while the Highland Park Historical Society applauds the library and city's belated embrace of duty of care towards the archives, we seem to be excluded from this expansion while we've been waiting patiently for 10 years. One might recall that this gem of a historical collection exists largely as a result of the Historical Society's work, even preceding its 1966 founding. In particular, this century's extension of an archives program and extensive digitization grants funded by the National Archives and State Library, respectively, through the efforts of the Historical Society. Many materials are now available that were hidden in the library since the first Historical Society in 1930, thanks to these efforts. Alerts regarding the assessment of physical conditions before March 215 news we were told that, well, the library will expand soon, we'll make it better, and our suggestions were rarely well received. In particular, a report commissioned in 2018 indicated that professional standards could not be achieved. We might also want to recall that the Historical Society gave these collections to the city, not the library, because the library would not agree to adhere to the best practices that we developed with the National Archives. And again, they're moving towards that, that's great. But we would like to be included. We don't believe it benefits the community to have two institutions, one with the research archives and one with archives and archives. That's costly to the environment. And we'd also like to note that there have been 3 proposals for the expansion. One put the archives next to water table, the second put it next to mold, and this third, which is in the current location, is too small, as has been acknowledged, and it has a report, the Library Commission itself, saying that it was not appropriate space and it could not be resolved to make it appropriate. So society has waited for 10 years to be included in this, and we've been issued a spectrum of proposals, and we'd like to be included in the expansion before it's too late.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to be heard? No? Okay, we will continue on with our scheduled business. Items 1 through 14 have been grouped together for omnibus consideration. I am seeking a motion to approve items 1, 2, and 3, 5, 6, and 7, 9, 10, 13, and 14.
5 and I believe 8, 5 is to be pulled.
5 is also to be pulled?
4 is already been pulled.
Okay. So
4,
1,
5,
2,
and 8.
1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 9, 10, 13, 14.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments on those items? Any from the public?
Actually, with 8, I can, if you want to comment, then I can add it in.
8 is pulled, so.
Okay, all right.
So we have a motion, we have a second. We don't have any public comments. We don't have any comments from the council. Will the clerk please call the vote?
Councilmember Bruckman. Aye. Councilmember Ross. Councilmember Littlewer.
Aye.
Councilmember Stone. Aye. Councilmember Bloomberg.
Aye.
Mayor Rotering.
Aye, 6 ayes, no nays. Items 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 9, 10, 13, and 14 have been approved. Item 4 is a resolution approving a food and beverage establishment interior improvement and expansion grant program. Councilmember Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. Is this on? I assume it's on.
Oh, no. No,
There
it's
we go.
on.
There we go.
Okay.
Thank you. I have a question. It's regarding the $150,000 grant. And I've raised this question before, and I'm not expecting, this is not a criticism, by the way. I support this resolution. Somebody who receives it, a business that receives it, might, I'm not sure if they will, but they might find it treated as taxable income. And so the net amount that they wind up with could be less. And depending on the business and how they do their business, they could accelerate the depreciation and be taxed less. And so my question is, have we looked at other cities? Have we talked to our businesses about what the net effect would be for them? Because it sounds like a large number, to help them with, and have we asked that question?
So we certainly have talked to other communities, not specifically about this question, but about incentive programs overall. And we have other incentives as well. So generally, my advice to businesses was that we just can't provide them tax advice, and the tax exemptions and how much would be net really depends on their overall financial portfolio. But from the city's perspective, it's really just based on the terms and conditions here, you know.
Sure. And so we feel confident that this amount of money, which might be less, but we don't know, I mean, in terms of it being taxable income, that it's a good amount this is what businesses say would be helpful
We
to
do.
them.
So we consulted with, we got feedback from businesses. We also got feedback from a business and economic development advisory group. And this is given to them as a grant for improvements at the establishments.
And they're comfortable with the amount.
Well, I'm sure they'd like more. We're comfortable, we're recommending the amount.
yeah.
And I can add,
Yeah.
if it's okay, Mayor, from a general municipal perspective, providing a gross number as opposed to netting out based on individual need is exactly how other municipalities are doing it.
I anticipated that. It was more that, you know, that's a nuance of the amount of money that maybe, but I just like to bring that up as a point of interest.
Yeah.
That we don't know exactly what they will net. Yeah.
Correct, but we do believe this is a healthy incentive that can provide a notable difference and impact.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bloomberg and then Brookman.
Thank you. Thank you. So with respect to we're on number four, right. I had opposed the much larger grant program that was addressed in some of the public comments earlier tonight. I'm going to vote in favor of this for several reasons. First of all, I think it's proportional, and most importantly, it incentivizes, to use a word, landlords, as well as the new businesses, which is it's the vehicle that we've been after, to involve the landlords who own the properties that businesses come into, to make it attractive to a landlord to want new businesses, to be invested in the process of bringing new businesses into Highland Park. So up to $150,000 for qualifying businesses. Those businesses also have to have a term of established success, either in Highland Park or prior to coming to Highland Park. And then if they qualify for this money, they have to expend the money first, along with the landlord, to make the improvements. Before doing that, they have to qualify for the program. Then they make the improvements, they spend the money, and then with the landlord, they are reimbursed for those costs of improvements. And I think that's what I'm looking for in terms of assisting businesses and encouraging businesses to come to Highland Park. So I feel very differently than I did about the previous program that we've talked about. Thank you.
Thanks. Councilmember Brookman.
First off, I want to say that this topic was first discussed before I was appointed, but I did watch the videos and read the minutes. I want to say that I fully support this incentive program. I think it's wonderful to help businesses with this incentives and to bring more businesses to Highland Park. I am also happy to see that the eligibility looks like requirement was reduced from 1.2 million to gross annual revenue to 900,000 to make these funds more easily accessible to businesses. I did also note from the March 11th video that some council members wanted the cap to be 1.5 million, and the city said 500,000 and decided on 750,000. But now, looking at the vote today, it's capped at, it was supposed to be 750, but now it looks like it's 500,000. So I just wanted to ask, why was that reduced?
Just for budget considerations. We'll certainly keep the council apprised as these applications come forward, and just so we're all aligned, we are also recommending that this be retroactive to the start of the calendar year. There are some businesses that had talked to us early on, and as you may recall, we first talked about this in the first quarter of the year, so we are recommending and that would make a couple of businesses also eligible for this program that meet the criteria. But if we deplete the funds that are available, we'll certainly apprise the council, and if we want to look at shifting funds from another account, we can certainly do so if this program proves to be wildly successful.
Okay, great, thank you, that's all.
Councilmember Littleworth?
Thank you. So I just wanted to say that it's not only the work of staff who really did a yeoman's job on this, but I do have to say that we watched the input and we asked for the input of the business of BDAG, of the Chamber of Commerce. We went through this line by line at the BDAG meetings to see what businesses really thought they could use and they needed help with. And this is a significant departure than just throwing an incentive program at someone, because I think that staff really heard the community, the property owners. A lot of people had input into this in a way that I haven't seen before in economic development planning. And part of that is I've only been on the council for the 3 years, but in my 3 years, these incentives in particular, because there's a lot of money involved here, were really gone over with a fine-tooth comb. In addition to the money that may be loaned out or may be a grant, there's also a certain commitment by these businesses besides the qualifications, which are really crucial and I think are very well thought out. But if someone leaves this community in fewer than 5 years, 4 years, there's a pro rata give back that's also necessary. So it's not like we're not asking for a long-term commitment from these businesses. And that, for me, was a really forward-looking way of doing this, because we want to incentivize these businesses. And secondarily, you should know that these communities that have been successful, they have similar programs. It's not like these wonderful restaurants are just going to these communities because they happen to like them better than us. And I think staff has worked really hard to get this council and this town to that point where we can now begin to offer it on a par with a lot of other communities. So I want to just commend everybody who was involved in this. And I really want to thank the community, because on the 2 or 3 groups that I sit and heard comments on these things, specifically to each requirement and a real look over as to what we're doing and giving away, because it's tax dollars we're talking here. And it's to build a greater downtown and a greater Highland Park in general. So I just wanted to commend the council and the city and staff for all the work they've done, as well as our residents who brought up a lot of these concerns.
Thank you. With that, I'm seeking a motion to approve item 4.
So moved.
Second.
Will the clerk please call the vote?
Councilmember Brockman? Aye. Councilmember Ross?
Aye.
Councilmember Littleworth?
Aye.
Councilmember Stone?
Aye.
Councilmember Bloomberg?
Aye.
Mayor Rotering?
Aye, 6 ayes, no nays. Item 4 is approved. Item 5, Councilmember Stone.
I'm sorry, can we go back to item 3 just for 1 second?
Sure.
The city manager had mentioned that this needed to be approved as amended, subject to final approval by Corporation Council, and I'm not confident that we did that. Was that?
Yes, we're assuming that that was picked up and included in the consent agenda approval.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. Item 5 is an ordinance amending Section 37.005 of the Highland Park Code of 1968 as amended regarding ethics regulations. Councilmember Littleworth.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank the council and staff once again, because this issue was brought up, and I think it's long overdue that it was looked at. I don't agree with the context within which it was brought up, but I think that the end result is a really good place for us. We've set up a structure where anyone who sits on our advisory boards, on our advisory groups, our boards, or our commissions, as well as the city council, can seek legal advice on a very cursory level, and then if in fact they feel there's any problem, there's a mechanism in place now to judge both our ethical standards as well as the state law. Mostly about us, but I didn't want this to just get passed, because we spent a lot of time on it, and there were a lot of people who were called into question on this, and I'm really confident that this is a good way for us to move forward and ensure that there should be no other accusations without an actual and a really good way to get questions answered and seek advice. So I thank everybody for their work on this.
So I'm seeking a motion to approve item 5.
So moved.
Second.
Will the clerk please call the vote?
Councilmember Brockman? Aye. Councilmember Ross?
Aye.
Councilmember Littleworth?
Aye.
Councilmember Stone?
Aye.
Councilmember Bloomberg?
Aye.
Mayor Rotering?
Aye, 6 ayes, no nays. Item 5 is approved. Item 8, a resolution approving change order numbers 15, 16, 17, 19 22, 23, 30, 31, and 32 to the professional services agreement with Leopardo Construction, Inc. Councilmember Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. I asked to pull this resolution regarding the east entrance, which has an additional price increase of $725,000, and the base guaranteed maximum price was originally $547,000, but as staff mentions in the posted packet, that number was based on a conceptual plan that didn't include engineering or mechanical drawings. And I assume it's too late to ask the architect to value engineer to bring that cost down. But I ask for the future that we look at hiring a construction manager, city manager and mayor. Thank you. I have spoken with you both on this topic. I do not believe we currently have this role. I know we'll have to agree to disagree on that, that does what I'm referring to, and I really believe that the city would save a lot of money and benefit greatly, for a city construction manager that is troubleshooting, that's anticipating, and also that would, not present $547,000 without factoring in the engineering and mechanical. And I guess I also ask for the future, could we be alerted much sooner that there is a big cost increase? It felt a bit late in the game to hear about it. And it's, speaking of, tax dollars, we're responsible for tax dollars when we vote on this. Thank you.
Did you want to respond or no?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Councilmember Ross, and we can certainly talk about that position and have a separate policy conversation. We do appreciate the council's support on this initiative. So as you may recall, it was in April that we brought the GMP to the city council. And at that time, we're working off conceptual plans for a couple of these design elements. And so we knew that we were going to come back at some point when this specific aspect of the project went out to bid. And then we finally got those numbers about 3 weeks ago, and then I emailed you as soon as I had all the information for your preliminary feedback and talking to one-on-one with each of you about this. There are certain elements of this construction project that are based on a cost share between the city and the Park District, and so that's reflected in the staff report accordingly. And then there is a new agreement that we're working on with the Park District that once we fully occupy the senior center operation there will be operating under kind of a new format just based on all the improvements that are there. So we actually have our punch list walkthrough on Friday for the upper level, and the first banquet scheduled on September 21st at the property as well. We are going to be coming forward with a banquet services agreement and some information as it pertains to those services. And then we'll certainly keep you apprised. We are planning for the senior centers to move in November 1st, and that's also the timeline when the parking lot is anticipated to be complete as well. So things are moving very quickly. I appreciate your sentiments completely, and I'll continue to provide you information as soon as I have it.
When they, go out to bid, I mean, it feels like the entire scope of the work should be, from what I read, it was just, well, it said very conceptual plans, so anyway, we can have a conversation about that. Thank you.
With that, I'm seeking a motion to,
No, I
nope,
also-
you have a question also?
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually don't have a question. I'm actually going to vote against this, and I think it's a wonderful project, but the costs have gone up significantly, and it's not only the entryway. It may have been conceptual, but it's just a huge increase. I do think you've kept us surprised, and I think we've had plenty of notice in which time to look at it, but that doesn't mean I've agreed with the increases as it's gone along. And I just think it's just way too much money as it has evolved, and therefore I just wanted to explain my no vote.
Thank you. Anybody else? Nope. With that, I'm seeking a motion to approve item 8.
So moved.
Second.
Will the clerk please call the vote?
Councilmember Bruckman. Aye. Councilmember Ross.
Reluctantly, aye.
Councilmember Littlewer.
No.
Councilmember Stone.
Aye.
Councilmember Bloomberg.
Aye.
Mayor Rotering.
Aye. 5 ayes, 1 nay. Item 8 is approved. Items 11 and 12 are related to Ravinia Festival. Item 11 is an ordinance amending a special use permit in the nature of a planned development for 18 Sheridan Road and 201 St. John's Avenue. Item 12 is a resolution approving an 8th amendment to the development agreement between the City of Highland Park and the Ravinia Festival Association. Out of an abundance of caution, I'm going to recuse myself from these two items. I serve as the honorary chair with the governor. That's all I've got. We are the honorary chairs. There is no participation in the board of directors. There is no participation in any of the operations or decision-making related to Ravinia Festival. Similarly, I sit on the Ravinia Women's Board. We're a fundraising organization for children to receive orchestral instruments in underserved communities. But regardless, I will be recusing myself and asking Councilmember Bloomberg to handle items 11 and 12. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or discussion on either of these two items?
I wanted to say as the liaison to PDC that we've reviewed these plans and it's come before the PDC 3 times. And if anything, it's a 30% increase in the greenery and shrubbery that's required. So even though it is a height variance and an increase, I think that the festival has made concerted efforts to compensate for that, and it should be a beautiful project in light of the extras that they've added to this.
Great. Any comments from Corporation Counsel or from the city manager on this?
I believe it was the mayor that pulled it from the agenda, so.
Right. Understand. Okay.
We do have representatives from Ravinia Festival here if there are any questions as well.
Okay. Not having any comments and hearing no questions, will you call the vote, please?
Yes, for, you need a motion.
Oh, I need a motion,
You can
yes.
take the two items.
11 and 12.
fashion. Correct.
May I have a motion for 11 and 12 as a group?
So moved.
Second.
Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Brockman.
Aye.
Councilmember Ross.
Aye.
Councilmember Littlewer.
Aye.
Councilmember Stone.
Aye.
Councilmember Bloomberg.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Thanks.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay. What's next?
Next item is item 15, which is a public hearing for the proposed renewal of the City of Highland Park Special Service Area Number 19. In accordance with the Illinois Special Service Area Tax Law 35 ILCS 200 Article 27, I hereby call to order the public hearing on the proposed renewal of the Central Business District Special Service Area 19. Pursuant to applicable law and requirements, notice of this public hearing was published on August 1, 2024 in the Daily Herald. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Brockman.
Here.
Councilmember Ross.
Present.
Councilmember Tapia. Councilmember Littlewer.
Here.
Councilmember Stone. Here. Councilmember Bloomberg.
Here.
Mayor Woodring.
Here, we have a quorum. I declare the public hearing on the renewal of the Central Business District Special Service Area 19 open. I will now call on Business Development Manager, bless you, Carolyn Hirsch, to, bless you again, to provide information regarding the proposed renewal of Special Service Area 19.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. A special service area is a unique economic development tool that municipalities can use within a contiguous area to support and implement a wide array of services, physical improvements, and activities beyond those that are normally provided by the city. Since 1970, the city has established 19 SSAs, of which 2 are still active, including the Ravinia Business District SSA 17 and the Central Business District SSA 19. SSA 19's boundaries include all of the commercial properties in the B4 and B5 zoning districts, except for the residential condominiums with separate residential tax pins to the extent allowed by law. There are 205 parcels within the SSA. On May 22nd, property owner Al Claremont petitioned the city to consider a renewal of SSA 19 for a 3-year term. The Central Business District Property Owners Association support the petition. The funds would be used for marketing and event support to enhance the economic vitality of downtown Highland Park. The proposed annual levy is $110,000. If SSA 19 is approved, the Downtown Highland Park Alliance Board will oversee expending the funds. The Downtown Highland Park Alliance is currently governed by a 5-member board of directors comprised of 4 commercial property owners and a city representative. Through collaboration with businesses, property owners, and the City of Highland Park and the Chamber, the Alliance promotes the B4 and B5 zoning districts, and they support events to encourage local spending, tourism, and a sense of community. The proposed SSA renewal is subject to an objection petition the commercial property owners and electors of record within the SSA may file to prohibit its renewal within 60 days after tonight's public hearing. Objections must be in writing, and we may have forms available at City Hall. After the 60-day objection period, the city will tally all of the written objections filed with the city clerk. The SSA will advance unless 51% of the registered voters and 51% of the commercial property owners of record within the SSA boundaries have filed petitions of objection to the renewal of the SSA. If it cannot be renewed, and the city may reconsider after 2 years. The most important date to remember is, moving forward, is the 60-day objection period deadline, which is on October 25th. If it is renewed, SSA tax will be assessed proportionately on all commercial properties of record within the taxing district starting in 2025. It'll be based on equalized assessed value of each property, and the first payments would be made after the June and September 2025 property taxes are collected and distributed by the state.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the City Council? None. Are there any questions or comments from the members of the public? Hearing none, I will now entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
We need a
Do a
vote.
voice vote.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Individuals may also submit written comments to the attention of the city manager following the statutorily required 60-day objection period, which ends on October 25, 2024. The city council is scheduled to consider the adoption of the renewal ordinance at the November 25, 2024 city council meeting. Any questions related to the proposed renewal of Special Service Area 19 may be directed to the city manager's office at 847-926-1000. With that, I am seeking a motion to go into closed session.
Motion to go into closed session to discuss collective bargaining and litigation pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2C2 and 11 respectively.
Second.
Will the clerk please call the vote?
Councilmember Brockman.
Aye.
Councilmember Ross.
Aye.
Councilmember Littlewer.
Aye.
Councilmember Stone.
Aye.
Councilmember Bloomberg.
Aye.
Mayor Rotering.
Aye, 6 ayes, no nays. We will go into closed session. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Can you come up for a second?